Hi, I'm Pastor David with Declaration Church, and I want to tell you a little story about a time where I was a little bit lost and how that really kind of spurred some thoughts as I read through a portion of scripture this week. I went to the mall with two of my younger kids. They were the only two kids we had at the time, but I took my two kids to the mall because my wife had been at home with them all day, all week. She was exhausted. She needed a break. And I had just gotten home from work. I was working 12, 14-hour days, 6 days a week at that time. And it was just a struggle for us. But I got home, I noticed she was just exhausted and she needed a break. And so I grabbed the kids and we went to the mall. Why? Because we were not doing great financially, number one. And number two, it's free. You can go to the mall, and at that time there were toy stores and all kinds of fun things at the mall. You could go to the mall, hang out with your kids, and it didn't cost you anything. It was totally free, totally easy. Just go park, walk through the mall, go to the toy store, let the kids mess around, look at all the toys, have a good time, walk back out, and you're ready to go. But I don't know if you've ever noticed this, in some malls, almost every entrance and exit looks the exact same. So you can get inside, get turned around, and then you walk out the wrong door and you're not where your car is. You're not where you parked. And so we hung out at the mall, and the mall was closing, so it was time for us to go. We walked out the doors, and that was the situation. There I was with two little kids and no idea at that point where our car was, because I look out and I'm like, oh my goodness, where are we? This is the wrong door. But we can't go back in the mall to go out the right door because the doors are locked because the mall is closing. So what do? I look around, I get my bearings, I know exactly where the car is. But we're lost for a little bit. We're lost for a second because we've come out the wrong door and we're not where we wanted to be. And as I was reading through the scripture, that was one of the things that came to mind. It's in Isaiah chapter 6. And we're really going to focus on verse 5. But Isaiah has an experience with God here in the temple where he gets a vision of God in all of his glory, and just at least as much as humanity can handle. And it just exposes the truth of who Isaiah is to himself. He sees himself in a much more accurate light than we have a tendency to see ourselves. We have a tendency to see ourselves as, sinners, but, not so bad as, and we're able to compare ourselves to other people and compare ourselves to what the world's standard is, and we can come across and convince ourselves we're really not that bad. We're really not that bad. But then when we're actually standing in light of God's amazing glory and we see a little more accurately who God is and what he's like, our sin becomes uglier, and who we are in ourselves, in our own sin, becomes much more real. And then our view of ourselves actually, I believe, becomes more accurate. And that's what happens here in Isaiah. He gets a vision of God. I'm going to start in verse 1. It says, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple." So Isaiah's got a vision of God in the throne room, and above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." And the foundations of the thresholds shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And this is where we see Isaiah's response. We get to understand what Isaiah experiences as he looks at himself in this situation. "And I said," this is Isaiah speaking and writing here, "Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." So Isaiah gets a much more accurate picture of God and his glory and how amazing and holy God is. And it exposes to him his own shortcomings and failures. And he recognizes that he is lost. Or some translations, I am undone. He's completely at a loss. He is in a situation now where he doesn't see any hope, no way out. Everything is lost. Everything is over. He is undone. He has no next step. He's completely gone. He's completely lost. He has no recourse. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that. I can recall a couple of times where I was in a situation like that, where I just felt like there was no hope. Like there was no chance for me to improve. There was no other place to go. I was stuck and I had no hope of moving forward. I have been in a situation like that a couple of times in my life where I have just felt completely lost and undone. And that is Isaiah's experience in this passage. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that, or maybe you're in a situation like that right now, where you just feel hopeless and completely lost and devastated, and you have no idea where you're going to go or how you're going to get there, or how, if there's even a there to get to. But what happens next in this passage is amazing, because an angel, one of the seraphim, flies to him. A seraph flies to him, grabs a coal from the altar, touches his lips, and says, "This has made you clean." And at that moment, everything changes for Isaiah. And when God asks, who can go out and accomplish this mission for us? Who will be our representative here on the earth? Isaiah is ready to step up, and he knows what his next step is. He knows how to act. He knows the direction he needs to go. He knows everything he needs to do. Now he's moved from hopeless, lost, undone, completely just devastated, to ready to move forward with a brand new mission and plan. God has a plan for you no matter where you are in your life. And when you get to those points where you're completely lost and devastated and undone, what's amazing is God is there for you, and he is there to let you know that he has a plan. He has a hope for you. He has a plan and a hope and a next step for you. You're not lost and undone if you just surrender to him and allow him to take you, equip you, approve you, and move you forward. God is there for you if that's where you're at, and anytime you get there. Because all of us, I believe, will end up in that spot at least once in our lives. And if we've already been there, we're probably going to get there at least one more time before we are gone from this earth. The good news is that God is there, and he has hope and a plan and a future for you. So if this has been a challenge to you and encouraging to you, if this has uplifted you, if this has given you hope, if this has given you that moment where you realize God has a plan for you, go ahead, give this video a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe to the channel so that every time we post new content, you're notified. Click that little bell as well so that you get that notification up in the top right corner of your screen every time you log into YouTube. I'm so glad that you gave me the opportunity to be a part of your journey with Jesus today, that you and I can walk together through the scriptures and gain a deeper understanding of the greatness and the love that God has for us. He's got a plan for you, and he wants to move you forward. And I hope that you and I can continue to walk together as we journey in our walk with Jesus from this point forward. Thanks for letting me be a part of it today. As always, I'm Pastor David, and I'm out.